Welcome back, everyone, to Watcher of All Things. My name is Kiki, and this is my podcast where I talk movies, TV shows, and all things entertainment. And today is episode 28, and oh boy, is it a big one. We are talking two ginormous summer blockbusters, Deadpool and Wolverine, as well as Twisters. It's going to be a big one. We're going to get in the weeds on both movies. I saw Twisters last weekend at a really cool old-fashioned kind of theater, the one where it's like a slope when you're walking into the theater, and there's like all of the seats aren't those huge leather ones where it's like 14 in the whole auditorium, which is just stupid. It is like an actual theater, like in the olden days where you're sitting, directly behind someone. So that was really cool, and it's projected way above at the front of the room. It's just really cool to be in kind of an old-fashioned type setting for that. And then I saw Deadpool and Wolverine last night in IMAX, so we got a big one this week, not gonna lie. It's nice that we are in summer blockbuster season. It is really fun just getting massive swings coming out every week at the theaters. Last night, the trailers before Deadpool and Wolverine were insane. Like Alien Romulus, I got goosebumps watching that trailer, and I cannot wait for that movie. I'm so excited. In 2 weeks, we will be doing an Alien franchise Watcher Watch Back. So Romulus comes out on August 16th, but we will do a Watcher Watch Back the week before that. Okay, as always, there are timestamps below if you want to just hear the news, or you want to hear just Deadpool and Wolverine because you haven't seen Twisters, or vice versa, whatever. There's timestamps below so you can avoid all spoilers. Anything you don't want to know about, stick to the timestamps. All that good information is below if you want to just go news and what else I watched before, not have the movie spoiled for you. But let's get right into the news because this is going to be a big episode, and there's already lots to cover before we even get into two giant blockbuster movies. All right, first piece of news comes from Apple, who are apparently going to be making giant cuts with their films and television series. Now, Apple TV Plus is strangely the only subscription service that I don't have because I thought this is kind of expensive for the year and I really never use it. Like, I have tons of stuff in my Apple library of movies I've bought digitally, but you don't need to have Apple TV to access those, obviously. They make very good TV shows and films in general. Like, I've seen so many interesting articles this week with this news coming out that I'll tell you about with a really good article from IndieWire. Apple TV, like, they made Ted Lasso, which is like a fun show. Other than that, last season was really not great. But they have made some very seriously good TV shows. They also made that most recent Marty Scorsese movie, Killers of the Flower Moon, which was really good. Like, Apple TV actually do splash the cash on their productions, but it looks like they are seriously cutting back. And I saw some other articles this week that were like, Apple TV is very good, but why is nobody watching it? So even Apple is cutting costs on its series and films. The world's richest company is no longer spending as recklessly on video content, Bloomberg reports. Apple, the world's richest and only $3 trillion company, is now practicing frugality as it pertains to entertainment content. Apparently, Apple management is paying less upfront for shows and is quicker to cancel ones that aren't working. A chart showed that Apple original series from 2019 have averaged a run of nearly 4 seasons. It's now half of that. The company is also trying to get third-party studios to take on more of the financial burden when things go over budget. Efforts to cut those overages are turning up in plans for the upcoming seasons of Severance and Foundation. One of the efforts are manifesting in production delays, but even those aren't enough. So yeah, you do have to keep in mind COVID and the writer's strike. Like, there have been reasonable things that would delay projects, but I mean, with all of its delays, as IndieWire is saying, some due to COVID for the first season of Severance, which ran $40 million over budget, and season 2, which has cost more than $20 million a piece per episode. Holy, $20 million an episode. Hitman, the movie, was made for what, $8 million or less? I feel like it was less than $8 million. What? Oh my God. Both shows were delayed by 2023 writers and the actor strikes, but Foundation needed a further timeout to balance the books. At least Severance brings in Emmys, that's true. The good news is, as it pertains to Apple, nobody knows anything. Since Apple TV Plus and its other Apple One services for that matter is such a small potatoes product, Apple barely shares any performance data. Yeah, you do have to keep in mind, Apple is a $3 trillion company. Like, they can afford Argyle. They can throw so much money at these movies and TV shows and take a loss, because at the end of the day, it is peanuts. It is almost nothing to them. And that's just crazy to me, how much money they are spending on their movies and TV shows. Like, $20 million an episode for Severance is mind-blowing. That has to be the most expensive TV show of all time, hands down. I don't know what could be more expensive. Look, they have made some good stuff. Masters of the Air was a TV show I mostly enjoyed. Ted Lasso, a TV show I enjoyed until season 4, I felt was just very watered down and not as great, and kind of lost focus of the team itself. You know, a TV show grows, I get that. But they've also done some good movies. They made Killers of the Flower Moon, which I thought was impeccable, and I really did like that movie. So, I don't know, I get it, but I don't blame Apple for wanting to maybe bring the budget down on some projects, because holy shit. But let's move on to some interesting, more happy news that I actually enjoyed. Robert Pattinson is in talks to star opposite Jennifer Lawrence in Lynn Ramsey's thriller Die, My Love. So Deadline is saying, in what would mark the first time the two A-listers have shared the screen together, sources tell Deadline that Robert Pattinson is in negotiations to star opposite Jennifer Lawrence in the thriller Die, My Love, which Lynn Ramsey is directing. Ramsey also co-wrote the script with Enda Walsh. Set in a remote, forgotten rural area, the story follows a mother who struggles to maintain her sanity as she battles with psychosis. It is unknown who Pattinson is playing. So that sounds very cool. I'm happy Jennifer Lawrence is kind of returning a little more to her. I know she just had a child a couple of years ago, I think. So she went on a bit of an acting break, I want to say. But I really liked that movie she did last year, No Hard Feelings. I thought that was pretty funny and like a very fun comedy for her. She's also a very good dramatic actor. Like, you watch Silver Linings Playbook, she's amazing in that. Doing a movie with Robert Pattinson, that sounds very cool. Let's get into some juicy gossip now, though. I feel like, I don't know, I want to talk some shit. Sam Levinson, the guy who did Euphoria and The Idol, I cannot stand this guy. It looks like his involvement with The Idol soured his relationship with Zendaya. Sources claim that Zendaya was frustrated by Levinson focusing on the controversial series instead of the long-awaited Euphoria Season 3. Zendaya was allegedly ready to challenge Sam Levinson's plans for Euphoria Season 3. After a years-long hiatus, Challenger star and Euphoria star executive producer Zendaya was frustrated by Levinson opting instead to focus on The Idol rather than Euphoria. A source claimed that allegations of a toxic workplace during The Idol production reshoots affected Zendaya, who was urged by fans to distance herself from Levinson. Her image is pristine, an unnamed executive said, and fans were turning against Sam. Additionally, Zendaya allegedly had a meeting with HBO executives Casey Bloys and Francesca Orsi to ask why the network was allowing Levinson so much leeway on The Idol when Euphoria needed work. And HBO drama chief Orsi seemed to second this in an interview with Deadline in 2023, stating that Levinson's overhauled The Idol took production precedent. More meetings led to more issues being aired. Bloys and Orsi couldn't fix what was damaged between Zendaya and Levinson during a mediation, especially after Zendaya told HBO executives that Levinson's wife, Ashley Levinson, could not be the sole executive producer on season 3. And I had also read somewhere that Levinson was annoyed she was focusing on her film career rather than trying to help Euphoria move along. Like, she was in Challengers and Dune Part 2. She was in 2 of the biggest movies of the year. Get over yourself. Go do your little HBO stuff. Of course, Zendaya should be gold to you, Sam Levinson. You should be at her feet worshiping her because she is holding and chugging your show along. Just crazy. I don't know, the whole process of Euphoria is kind of a shit show. Like, I remember when season 2 was coming out, how many crazy toxic workplace rumors there were, and people talking about that online, that all the actors on set were super unhappy and feel very vulnerable. So that's never great, and it's always sus whenever there's even rumors of that. That's just really not good in general. It would just be best for HBO if Euphoria really wrapped up quickly, if they got season 3 out of the way and done, and I think that would be best for all parties. All right, final piece of news, because I really do want to get to the main events this week of Deadpool and Wolverine as well as Twister. Rebecca Ferguson is going to be in the Peaky Blinders movie. The Netflix project is written by series creator Stephen Knight. Mission Impossible and Dune star Rebecca Ferguson is joining Cillian Murphy in Netflix's Peaky Blinders movie. I am yet to watch the final season of the television show. I didn't like season 5, so I just haven't been motivated to go back for the season where Tommy Shelby, spoiler, joins politics. I just was like, this feels weird and strange, but also just the whole aesthetic and slow motion badassery of the show kind of wore off on me. I was like, this feels so self-indulgent and just over the top, and like every, I don't know, suburban dad with a motorcycle just probably oozes over this show. I don't know. It's such a weird aesthetic to praise, the whole Thomas Shelby Birmingham thugs type thing. But look, Rebecca Ferguson, phenomenal actress. I love her in both Mission Impossible and Dune. She's been in a lot of great stuff. She has an Apple TV show called Silos that is apparently very good, and yet nobody talks about it. There you go. Netflix has greenlit the movie based on the beloved series that stars Murphy as Thomas Shelby, the war hero turned gangster who works his way up in the world of crime in 1900s Birmingham. While the film is described as a continuation of the series, plot details are being kept under wraps along with Ferguson's role. So I think that is a very good addition to this series, acting some real box office draw. I think Rebecca Ferguson could be a major box office draw now. People recognize her from stuff. I think she's very good in all of the movies she's doing. She's been in 2 massive franchises now. I just love her in Mission Impossible, and she's great as Lady Jessica in Dune. Like, she's so flawless in that role. I think she is one of the big hitters of that series. But yeah, I think I'm gonna wrap up the news there for this week. As always, there's timestamps below, as I said at the start of the episode. If you want to avoid spoilers, or you want to avoid just knowing anything about either of these movies, skip ahead to what else I watched, because I got lots to talk about there. But let's get into, I'm gonna start with Deadpool and Wolverine. Deadpool and Wolverine. Wow, I think this is my first Marvel project that I'm talking. This is crazy. Last week, my first Star Wars project, and this week, my first Marvel project. So Deadpool and Wolverine is a 2024 action comedy that is 2 hours and 7 minutes. In a nutshell, from Google, coarse, irreverent, and thrilling. It currently has a 79% on Rotten Tomatoes with a 98% audience score, 8.3 on IMDb, has 56% on Metacritic, so not too bad. I would say kind of the reactions I've seen online are quite mixed. It is, of course, directed by Sean Levy, who did Real Steel, he did Free Guy, he did The Atom Project. The screenplay is Ryan Reynolds, Sean Levy, Wendy Molyneux, Rhett Reese, Zeb Wells, Paul Warnick, and more. It's, of course, a Marvel Studios project. This is the first Deadpool movie that is under the Marvel banner, and it is the first Fox property that has fully moved over to, X-Men 97, but it is the first Deadpool movie, as I said. The movie, of course, stars Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool, Leslie Uggams as Blind Al, Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, Emma Corrin as Cassandra Nova, Marina Baccarin as Vanessa, Brianna Hildenberg as Negasonic Teenage Warhead, Matthew McFadden as Mr. Paradox, and I'm going to stop myself there. I'm not going to read any more cast members because holy moly, this movie is, what did they say, packed to the tits with cameos, and it's pretty wild watching this movie. Like, after having watched all of the Fox stuff for the X-Men 97 X-Men Spectacular episode, which you can find on all streaming platforms and YouTube. I think it was episode 22. Go back and listen to that. A really good episode. This is a crazy movie for people that have watched the Fox universe. Like, a lot of people grew up watching the Fox movies because there was no MCU. So this is a pretty wild ride for a lot of people. But let me give you a synopsis before we get into it. A listless Wade Wilson toils away in civilian life with his days as the morally flexible mercenary Deadpool behind him. But when his homeworld faces an existential threat, Wade must reluctantly suit up again with an even more reluctant Wolverine. If you want to go into this movie being surprised by as much as possible and you haven't seen the trailers, do that. Don't read anything. Stop listening to this. Pause this. Go see the movie. Then come back and you can go into every comment section without fear. Where should I start? Let me start by saying this. This is a movie that is like junk food. This is like having McDonald's. It's delicious and fun while you're having it, but it is nothing of substance, and it can get a little stale at times, makes you feel kind of crappy. However, this is one of the craziest niche fan service films of all time. For the chronically online 20th Century Fox fans, this movie is so goddamn rewarding, and it's literally Deadpool No Way Home. This is the Spider-Man No Way Home of the Fox universe, because holy shit, I had a lot of fun seeing this. Like, will it stand up on a rewatch? Probably not. But look, let me get into the cast first of all. I want to talk about the performances. Ryan Reynolds is Deadpool. He's always solid in the role. I don't think there has been a bad Deadpool showcase so far. I think he's very good in all three because he's He's funny. He brings actually a lot of heart to the role of Deadpool. Like, that first Deadpool movie is actually extremely sad, and the second one is quite sad in parts as well, but he has some absolutely hilarious jokes. Like, the first two movies, there's actually a lot of emotional weight to his character, which was nice. This is not just a hollow, cheap joke movie. There actually is some emotional weight in this movie, but it is quite spare. We'll get to that. But yeah, Ryan Reynolds, very solid as Deadpool. There were fears maybe that perhaps Ryan Reynolds' Deadpool will not fit in the MCU, but they really do just give him full reins. Like, there was no point where I was thinking, okay, yeah, that's Marvel intervention, or I didn't think they had, their head poking over Ryan Reynolds' shoulder while he was writing the script with all the other writers. I actually think they gave him the full leads to just do the jokes he wants to do. And I'm going to save my favorite jokes for spoilers, the ones I want to bring up specifically, but there are some absolutely insane jokes in this. There's also some ones that fall extremely flat, but they gave him the full reins. They made it rated R, and I have huge respect for Kevin Feige and Disney for just hitting the fuck it button, as they would say in the first Deadpool movie, and just kind of letting him go nuts and do his thing. Is this the best Deadpool movie? Probably not. I think it's not as strong as the first two, but they still let him do his thing and make it feel like an organic sequel to the other two. Or do you still call a third movie a sequel? How does that work? Anyway, the threequel. It is a proper trilogy. It feels like the movies all mesh over, and it was fun to see Ryan Reynolds' Deadpool just kind of be let loose in the MCU. Hugh Jackman is Wolverine. They did not waste bringing him back because he is mesmerizing as Wolverine in this movie. This is a flawless Wolverine performance. Hugh Jackman is amazing. And it's funny, he's told the story of when he announced his retirement and said, look, I'm going to do one more movie as Wolverine, and then I think I'm done, and that would eventually be Logan. 3 days later or whatever, Deadpool 1 came out, and he immediately regretted it after watching that movie, because he's like, this would be so fun to do a movie with Ryan, with Wolverine and Deadpool. But people were probably worried that, oh boy, they're going to bring Hugh Jackman back as Wolverine after Logan is, I think Logan is a perfect comic book movie. They did not waste Hugh Jackman's return in this movie, and I like that he is an extremely different Wolverine from the others as well. There's so much emotional weight to him. It's such a good, different adaptation. It doesn't feel like we're treading familiar ground, and he has so much emotional baggage in this story, which I really liked. They seriously give him some stakes to his character and some emotional weight. I think both Deadpool and Wolverine have emotional weight to their characters. It makes for a good story, and it's one of the highlights of the story, I have to say. Matthew Macfadyen as Paradox, I think he is extremely underused, but he's good to me every time he's on screen, and I actually found him extremely funny, even though he didn't get tons of laughs in my theater, but every time he was saying something, I was laughing and giggling. I really liked his character, but he's extremely underused to me and just kind of pushed to the side as the story moves on. And that goes for Emma Corbin as Cassandra Nova as well. Again, a very interesting character and a great villain when they're on screen, and I'm actually enjoying every scene they're in, and Emma Corbin is stealing every scene, but extremely underutilized and extremely underdeveloped, I want to say. But overall, a wonderful cast. I think everybody on the cast is awesome. I love the whole cast. There's so many people I can't talk about until spoilers, so I will save them. I promise. There was a moment where I'm like, do I just talk about spoilers and say, look, I'm just doing spoilers this week, so don't listen? But no, there's lots of stuff, I think, in non-spoilers that we can get into other than the cast. Look, the movie is pretty funny. There's a lot of great jokes, and I think the humor I think it is quite limited, however, to 2024. Like, a lot of jokes that are only really funny because of current times, and they speak to today, whereas you watch those first two Deadpool movies, and I have to say the jokes still hold up, like, a lot of the time. Whereas there were a few jokes in this movie that I'm like, oh, in 2 years, nobody's gonna know what the hell that's even talking about. I think that is one factor in why this movie is weaker than the first two. It does feel weaker than the first two, and I think that also has to do with who was brought on board to direct and write along with everyone else. Sean Levy, who I will get to in a moment, but I do want to talk about things I liked about this movie, because I think this is a extremely flawed movie, and it's not even like a good movie by any standards. It is a fun and funny movie. Like, it's strange to say. I don't know. It's literally junk food. It feels like empty calories, like The Acolyte, if that makes makes sense. Like, it feels kind of meaningless and nothing, but it's so much fun and it's so enjoyable while you're watching it, the things they bring into play. But like, the movie is very funny. There are some jokes that are really great. He's not afraid to especially take jabs at the MCU. There are some absolutely cutting jokes about Marvel in this movie that in my theater, people were like, ooh, like there was a boardroom of Disney suits that all had to listen to that joke and just say, yeah, Ryan, that's great. You can keep it in the film. Like, oh my God. It's pretty wild how much they let them get away with. And there is specifically one joke that I was like, I'm shocked they kept that in. I like that Wolverine actually had some great jokes too. Didn't try to make the Wolverine a joke in this movie. Like, they were very respectful of the character. They didn't nerf him. He's still very Wolverine-y, but he's, you know, this traumatized alcoholic Logan that works so well within this Deadpool story. When we meet Deadpool, and this is in the trailers, of course, Deadpool is like having a midlife crisis or quarter life crisis. I don't know. Probably midlife crisis. Him and Vanessa have broken up. He's working at a used car dealership and he kind of is looking for something more in life and feels like he's kind of, I don't know, he's hit a wall and just doesn't feel like he matters anymore. And Deadpool's struggle and Wolverine's struggle goes so well together. They both want to prove something, but at the same time are like, what's the point? I don't know, we've both just made so many mistakes. Is it too late to turn this around? But we have to at least try. I just really loved what they did with Logan in this movie. He has some actual jokes, but he is such a straight man to Deadpool, which is just perfect. This is such a buddy comedy. I love it. It is such a great buddy comedy. And yeah, like I said, it's funny and the plot is the plot for sure, but the movie actually does have heart. Like, it's mostly coming from Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. I have to say, like, I really like what they do at the start with Deadpool in the movie. I have to say, every scene with Hugh Jackman hit like crack. It was crazy how good he is in this movie, even though Logan was 2017, so it hasn't been that long since we've seen Wolverine on screen. It was pretty wild how just emotional it was as a return, and there were some scenes where I was on the edge of my seat with Wolverine, and I seriously liked it. I'm trying not to spoil anything so hard right now. I don't know if you can tell, but it's like, oh, I just want to say it, but I will not. I still have tons of stuff I want to talk about in non-spoilers. You cannot go into this movie expecting no cameos, because the amount of leaks and rumors, and everybody knows this movie is cameo fest. It will be. I'm not going to say any of the cameos until spoilers, but I have to praise them for how controlled they were with their cameos. I actually felt like they didn't go overboard and it was kind of just, action figures smashing on the screen, whatever. They are actually, I think, pretty restricted, and what they did show, I was happy with. Every single character that showed up on screen, I was like, oh, okay, cool. Like, I'm down with that. And there were specific ones that I loved, and I will talk about in spoilers, but it wasn't just constantly being thrown in our face. Like, there's so much fan service in this movie. Oh my God. Like I said, it is Deadpool No Way Home, because it is a movie of fan service. It is junk food. It is giving the people what they want. But I do enjoy how they made the cameos exist and breathe and let them be characters rather than just like dangling keys. In Deadpool 2, it's hilarious when they do it there, and I actually think it works with X-Force that everybody just dies after like 2 seconds in the first mission. But in this, they actually let the cameos exist and be characters. And the story is fine as itself, but it does not change the wheel. Beyond some hilarious and crazy cameos, the movie sort of abandons any plot or plot worth thinking about after about 5 minutes, and just does some fights, does some really good jokes, does some fan service, which, look, I get it. We knew what this movie was going to be going into it. They said, look, Fox is no more. We're going to give you a proper Fox send-off, and they delivered. A lot of people probably didn't know what to expect when they announced Deadpool and Wolverine, and I think people will be shocked seeing this, that know about kind of the history of the Fox universe and all the X-Men movies and all of the just Fox Marvel stuff in general, because this movie is very rewarding for people that know that. Again, it's not a story that's going to blow your mind. The movie's plot itself is actually pretty thin. The cameos and everything are just so much fun, and they really did abandon story for kind of fan service. But let's move on to the action. That was stuff I enjoyed, other than kind of the abandonment of plot, but the cameos were worth it, that I was like, yeah, fuck the plot. Let's just I'm down with just these cameos. The action, very mixed bags. There is one particular fight that I'll talk about in spoilers, which I absolutely loved because of a spoiler, but otherwise very uninspiring directing within the action. action. Very, very standard action, relying on shaky cam and I don't know, it's just not well put together in the fights. Like, you're kind of losing it sometimes, and you're finally getting to see things that people have waited years for, and it kind of feels like the directing is really letting down the moment because it's not showcasing it in the best light possible. Okay, speaking of directing, let's just get into it. Sean Levy, I think he's the perfect maybe Marvel director because he would just do what they wanted to do. But oh my God, I'm sorry, Sean Levy. I know he's Canadian and I'm sorry, but he cannot direct for his life. He could not direct his way out of a paper bag. There were some of the worst shots ever in this film. Like, this is not a spoiler. It doesn't give away anything of the story, but there's one shot of Deadpool standing in the TVA and he's talking to Mr. Paradox. And for some reason, it's in this weird two shot where we see Deadpool's back facing Matthew McFadden's character Paradox, and it looks like a CGI 2D Deadpool. It is such a weird shot. It's so strange. I don't know what the hell is Sean Levy thinking when he's directing. Like, it's just strange. But also the action directing is just all shaky cam. It's so vanilla, boring, and it relies on the shaky cam like a crutch, and it doesn't work. And I think this film had so much potential if it wasn't Sean Levy and they brought on a better director-writer. I think this movie could have been 1,000 times better, because just some punch-ups of the plot and making sure that, okay guys, we can have great cameos, but we need to also just have a great basis, whether that's like adding, I don't know, 10 to 15 more minutes of the movie. I actually thought this movie was short, even though the second act, I thought, God damn, this is just slowing down like crazy. Like, that was a wild start to the movie, the first act, but there is a moment that really, it does feel like it's slowing down and you're like, ooh, we are really taking our foot off the pedal here. But the directing just did not work for me, and it was very Sean Levy movie, and that there was a lot of Sean Levy-ness in this movie, which really dragged it down for me. The needle drops, so hit or miss as well. I just think, I don't know who picks that, but some of them I was like, okay, why? Like, what is a needle drop doing for this moment in the film? Like, you could just have a nice score to the film using like a proper orchestra that would be good for this moment. But then there's other times, like in the trailer, they use Like a Prayer by Madonna. I thought that was really well used in the film and I enjoyed that, but needle drops, very hit or miss. And like I said, the movie is just too short. The villains are underdeveloped, and I think we could have used 10 or 15 more minutes to just kind of establish more of a emotional plot for our villains and not just our heroes. But overall, look, this is a fun movie that has a lot to chew on for hardcore fans, and I think even, like, I don't know how much someone that doesn't know anything about the MCU or the Fox universe, I don't know why the hell you would go to this movie, but it's crazy how much money I think this movie is going to make. My show was packed last night. The parking lot was completely full to the theater, not just seeing Deadpool and Wolverine, but I went to an IMAX screening, so it's extra seating, and it was full. Like, I think there were 5 seats empty maybe. It was wild. It's a funny movie. It has some sparse good action moments and a wonderful Hugh Jackman performance and A+ cameos that save the film from a paper thin plot that is non-existent on reflection. Like, I loved Spider-Man No Way Home when I first watched it. I was like, that was so cool. That was so fun. But then you think back on it, you're like, there's so many plot holes and it is absolutely paper thin. It's even worse in this film. The story is just non-existent other than the cameos and just the Deadpool and Wolverine interacting, which, look, you get exactly what you want out of this movie, so I can't fault it for that. I gave it 4 out of 5 on Letterboxd because I was like, I got what I wanted. And even though it's not as good as the first 2 Deadpool movies, I still really enjoyed what we got because we got some crazy stuff that people would never expect, but also some things we waited years for. I'm going to go into spoilers now, so if you don't want to know spoilers, shut it off now, move into Twister's non-spoilers, or go to What Else I Watched if you want to avoid all Twister stuff. Okay, let's do spoilers. Let's go over all of the cameos in the film, because I actually just think it's good that I just read the list to you. Okay, Jon Favreau as Happy Hogan, Chris Hemsworth as Thor, Henry Cavill as a Wolverine variant, Hulk, but it's not Mark Ruffalo Hulk, it's just like CGI Hulk, it's not actually Mark Ruffalo, Chris Evans, but as Johnny Johnny Storm, not as Captain America. Aaron Stanford as Pyro, Tyler Mane as Sabretooth Story, and a bunch of various X-Men baddies from the movies. Jennifer Garner as Elektra, who is part of this squad of Fox properties of Jennifer Garner, Elektra. Wesley Snipes as Blade comes back. Channing Tatum finally gets to play Gambit, and he is fucking unreal as Gambit in this movie. He has been robbed of a good Gambit movie, and I actually wish we did get it, but Daphne Keena's X-23/Laura, they showed that last week in the final trailer. Wunmi Mosaku as Hunter B-15, Blake Lively as Lady Deadpool, Matthew McConaughey as Cowboy Deadpool, which I didn't realize at first, Inez Reynolds as Kidpool, Nathan Fillion as Headpool. It's just, it's pretty wild. Also, Rob McElhenney is in this movie as one of the TVA agents, but just a crazy jam-packed cameo fest. And let me go over my favorite cameo first, because my mind was fucking blown watching this movie, seeing this on screen. Channing Tatum as Gambit Remy LeBeau. Oh my god. We finally got live action Gambit, other than the X-Men Origins Wolverine one, which was just whatever. This one, they go the full powers. They have the pink light up cards. They got his staff, the costume. I love Gambit. I love X-Men 97, what they did with Gambit. Like the name's Gambit, Mon Ami, when he dies, is one of the most emotional things I've ever watched in a TV show, where I was actually like, how am I crying right now? But they do not waste the cameos of Elektra, Wesley Snipes, Blade, Channing Tatum as Gambit, and X-23/Laura. When Channing Tatum is fighting, and this is the one fight scene that I was like, this is fucking dope. Channing Tatum fighting as Gambit. I was absolutely blown away, because they don't just like, oh, we gotta make it realistic. No, they just go fully for it. He's using his pink light up energy staff. He's using the cards. I had goosebumps. It was just unreal. Just so phenomenal. I really loved the Blade stuff. I loved the Elektra stuff. I loved X-23. I wish she was in it maybe a bit more. When he meets Happy Hogan at the start, I actually thought that scene felt so flat to me in the theater. I don't know what it was. I was just like, this is not working for me. In that scene, the jokes just kind of weren't landing. I don't know what it was, but that was just a cameo that I was like, okay, that wasn't that great. Cassandra Nova kills Johnny Storm, and it's so funny when Chris Evans shows up. I'm like, oh my god, they're actually gonna have him come back as Captain America already. And then he throws off this like poncho and says "Flame on," and he's wearing his Fantastic Four suit. Oh my god, my theater went insane. First of all, it's a classic like opening night Marvel screening. Everybody was going crazy. A lot of the scenes, like when Wesley Snipes' Blade showed up, people fucking erupted in my theater. I was like, really, guys? We're going crazy for this? All right. Like, Cassandra Nova kills Johnny Storm by peeling all of his flesh off, and my theater went absolutely nuts. Okay, I'm going to go through my favorite jokes now, things that have stuck with me. Hugh Jackman's divorce joke. Ryan Reynolds just makes a joke about Hugh Jackman getting divorced like 4 months ago, and they added that in the movie. This was more shocking, and I was shocked that they kept it in, but Blade uses the R word when Deadpool says, oh, you're retired, and then Blade's like, what? And he says the word, and it was just crazy. It was very funny in the moment. Deadpool says, like, Jesus Christ, are you trying to get me canceled? Deadpool asking Gambit if his dialect coach was the Minions, because Channing Tatum's voice in this is just so hilarious as Remy LeBeau Gambit. You can't understand a word he's saying, like most lines, but it's so funny because everyone's like, what the hell did he just say? Blade saying there will only ever be one Blade and looking straight to the camera, and Deadpool looking straight to the camera. Elektra saying we don't need a Daredevil because her and Ben Affleck are divorced since that movie came out. Just good stuff all around. I really loved all the super specific referential MCU Disney Fox stuff. I loved all of that. It felt so rewarding. The opening sequence for this film, I really love the opening sequences of both Deadpool 1 and 2. In this opening sequence, Wade dances to Bye 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 by NSYNC. It's so corny, but I actually oddly loved it, and I thought it was just so good while he's using Logan's body from the movie Logan that he has dug up in the winter to fight the TVA agents. Very funny opening sequence that immediately sets the tone for the film. All right, last couple things before we get to twisters. The different Wolverine variants that we see are just nuts and so funny. Like, first we see comic accurate Wolverine, which he's like 4 feet tall, and at first, you know, Wolverine's sitting at the bar and turns around and you're like, oh cool, like we're getting a throwback Wolverine, and then he hops off the bar stool and he's so short. One of the hardest laughs in my theater. We also get, like, I don't know, the Henry Cavill one. It was cool that he literally has like one short moment and that's it. Let's talk about the Wolverine mask actually, because we do see the Wolverine mask with the eyes, and it just doesn't work for me, the eyes. I think that is why we will never get a Batman white eyes situation or a Wolverine white eyes situation regularly in the MCU. It doesn't look good to me. I don't think it works because you don't know where the actor is looking, to be honest. Like, there's something about Spider-Man that it just works. You can tell who they're looking at, or even Deadpool. But for Logan and for Batman, I don't think the white eyes will ever honestly work. It's fun to see, but finally after 24 years, but it doesn't work. I wish we got more Daphne Keane and Wolverine. There's one particularly great campfire scene with Daphne and Hugh Jackman that I was just like, God damn, this is absolutely magic to me right now, and it's so emotional. But I think we could have used a couple more scenes with the two of them. The ending was a super classic, predictable superhero ending. Oh, they're gonna end our timeline, but we need to pull these two things together and mash them. But someone's gonna die if they do it, and Deadpool is gonna sacrifice himself. But the power of friendship is too much, and Wolverine goes with him, and it could kill one person, but it can't kill two. I just felt like, okay, it's very generic, but at the same time, this is a buddy cop movie, like a buddy comedy. So they need to do the classic power of friendship ending, which I was like, okay, it's stupid, but whatever. It kind of feels very appropriate for this film. So that was fine with me. That was fine for the most part. But last thing, let's talk about post-credit scenes. It's not a post-credit scene, but during the credits, they have like, the Green Day song, Time of Your Lives or whatever. I hope you have the time of your life, that they play at every graduation ceremony. Well, they play that while showing like highlights of the B-roll footage and behind the scenes of all the Fox movies. And it's just it's oddly wholesome and emotional. Like, most of those movies are absolutely terrible, but you kind of get emotional for them, and you're like, damn, it really is the end of an era. Like, a whole other source of comic book movies has just stopped and been taken over by another corporation. So yeah, just weird. And then the other one is everyone in the movie, like Elektra and everybody in that crew. So the crew is Elektra, Blade, Channing Tatum, Gambit. I don't know why I went Channing Tatum, Gambit. Gambit and Daphne Keene's Laura / X-23. The four of them are like, you met Johnny to Deadpool, and Deadpool doesn't want to tell him that he got him killed. And he's like, no, like, I've never met the guy, but he seemed very nice or whatever. And so the other post-credit scene is Wade goes to like the TVA and actually replays footage of what Johnny supposedly said, which clearly didn't happen. But it's just a very funny thing where they let, Chris Evans has had to be this Wonder Bread guy, Star Spangled Man as Captain America in the MCU, but they literally just let him run free for a minute and a half saying the filthiest stuff about Cassandra Nova when they're all captured. And it's just hilarious. I think it really works well. And Deadpool breaks the fourth wall and of course is like, see, he said all that stuff. He had to die. Really loved that. I think it worked. Last thoughts. It's fun. I will probably watch it again, but not for the plot, just to see Gambit on screen. And also just the other returns were awesome. Like Wesley Snipes as Blade was actually really cool to see again. And even Jennifer Garner as Elektra was sick to see. And Daphne Keane as X-23 was super emotional for me, surprisingly. As someone who's watched Logan once, I was actually extremely emotional watching it. But look, it's fun. I gave it 4 stars, as I said. There's so much stuff to unpack in it, spoiler-wise, and it's just so much fun as a comic book movie fan, or even as a comic book fan. I think there's tons of Easter eggs in this that you could get out of it, of course. So I would recommend it. I would recommend it to the chronically online comic book movie fans for sure, because I think you would enjoy this. But that has been Deadpool and Wolverine. Let's move on to Twisters. Twisters is an action thriller 2024 movie that is 2 hours and 2 minutes. Currently has 76% on Rotten Tomatoes with a 92% audience score, 7.1 on IMDb. Google's in a nutshell: harrowing, bold, and intense. It was released last week, but I was away on the weekend, so I wouldn't be able to record an episode after. So I thought, you know what? We're just going to do a huge Deadpool and Wolverine plus Twisters extravaganza. So the film is directed by Lee Isaac Chung. The story is by Joseph Kosinski, who did Top Gun Maverick. Music is by Benjamin Wallfish. The budget was $200 million, which I think that's okay, because guess what? This has been absolutely killing it at the box office, like so insanely wild. But before we get ahead of ourselves, let's get into the synopsis. Haunted by a devastating encounter with a tornado, Kate Cooper gets lured back to the open plains by her friend Javi to test a groundbreaking new tracking system. She soon crosses paths with Tyler Owens, a charming but reckless social media superstar who thrives on posting his storm-chasing adventures. As storm season intensifies, Kate, Tyler, and their competing teams find themselves in a fight for their lives as multiple systems converge over central Oklahoma. The film stars Daisy Edgar Jones as Kate, Glenn Powell as Tyler Owens, the tornado wrangler, Anthony Ramos as Javi, Brandon Pereira as Boone, Maura Tierney as Kathy, Harry Haddon Patton as Ben. That's a crazy name, Harry Haddon Patton. Sasha Lane as Lily, Daryl McCormack as Jeb, Kiernan Shipka as Addie, Nick Dodani as Praveen, David Cornsweet as Scott, who I'm going to talk about, Tuned Adebimpe as Dexter, Katie O'Brien as Danny, David Bourne as Riggs, Paul Scheer as the airport traffic police. And yeah, I'll stop there. Okay, lots to say about Twisters. This was a movie I've been hyped for. Every time the trailer came on while I was at the theater, I was like, if you feel it, chase it. I was saying it to myself. Okay, fun but flawed. That's what I would say about this movie. This is what summer blockbusters are all about. Sure, it's a little rough around the edges, but god damn it, if this film has no fans, I'm dead. Let me start with the cast, of course. Glenn Powell, charming and fun as hell. He is absolutely the next Tom Cruise, but way funnier, a true superstar. Seriously, he's so good in this movie, and I look forward to many more blockbusters with Glenn Powell. Daisy Edgar Jones, who I absolutely loved in Normal People. It pains me to say this because I loved her in Normal People, but not good. Not a good performance from her. I know she's a really great actress, but this was just not good. Her accent is all over the place in this movie. A couple of times there was some acting with green screen where you could tell she like it's a weird like brief moment where she enters a frame and does this weird thing like acting like there's something in front of her when it's like, oh, no, you don't need to have that huge reaction, if that makes sense. I don't know, but it's her first blockbuster. Like she said, this is the biggest film she's ever done, so you kind of have to give her some leeway. I think it's only up from here, and I honestly hope she does get more blockbuster movies, but maybe does her own accent, because her Oklahoma accent was not good in this movie. Anthony Ramos, he's fine. He's fine as Javi. He's, not very standout in this. I think he's quite a generic character. Same with Brandon Pereira as Boone. I thought he was actually very funny, and he's a good sidekick for Tyler. Tyler Owens is like this like Mr. Beast type guy. Like, what if we gave Mr. Beast a science degree and he went out and chased tornadoes? Hearing Tyler Owens, Glenn Powell say "What up, chat" on screen I almost stood up and clapped in the theater. I was like, hilarious. David Cornsweet, he is awesome in this movie. I love how much of a pencil pushing by the book nerd he plays in this, and he's like this hardcore finance bro type dude. I thought it's crazy he's playing this and got Superman while he was filming this movie, because they could not be more different from each other. But it actually got me really excited for Superman, seeing David Cornsweet. I'm not going to go through the entire cast, but quick shout out goes to Sasha Lane as Lily, Harry Haddon Patton as Ben, and Tunde Adebimpe. All three of them, I thought they were very funny in this movie, but very like underutilized. I think they have a lot of great moments between those three characters. Just very funny and very authentic characters as well. So, okay, let's get into lots of things I liked. I'll kind of save the stuff of why I think what really holds this movie back towards the end. I liked how, just as the first movie did, we have a cast of recognizable actors, and it's like a fun ensemble. I, to some degree, know almost everybody in this movie from other movies and TV shows, and it's just kind of fun seeing the star power on screen. Like, you watch the first Twister movie and it's like, damn, there's some big names in like very small roles in this film, and I know they say there's no small roles, but I mean more supporting characters. Same with this one. It's very cool to see. Is this a sequel worth being made? Like, I think a lot of people, when they announced we're making a sequel to Twister, which is a classic in so many people's eyes, like, you can't say people didn't have their doubts. And I will say, look, did the ends justify the means? Absolutely. I think this is a very worthy sequel, and I think we should be very happy we got it, because like that first film, watching it back, it's like pretty cheesy and the effects are bad. So it's good to have like another version of that. But I think the story is much better in the first one. Is it a legacy sequel, or is it just a non-related sequel? If you don't want to know, go like 40 seconds seconds ahead because I'm just going to quickly say yes or no. I loved that this had nothing to do with the original. None of the characters are from the original. They didn't bring anybody, they didn't wheel anyone out like they do with all the Star Wars characters of, hey, we need you to come play blah, blah, Sagama, blah, 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 blah. Again, from this one episode of, whatever. It's just, I loved how disconnected it was from the first film, and I think that is only a positive thing for this movie. There was at no point where I was like, damn, we got nobody from the original other than Dorothy, which shows up in the trailer, their science incubator thing that releases things into the tornado. So I loved how separated it was from the first one, but actually extremely respectful of the first one. Like, it's pretty different in some parts, but at the same time, the story beats are quite similar to the first one. Okay, CGI, a huge step up from the first one. Oh my God. I watched the first one last weekend with my girlfriend, and you're like, yikes. The CGI of the tornadoes it does not hold up now. But this one, I was actually very impressed looking at the CGI. The CGI in this is actually awesome, and I wish I had like 40x around me, because I've seen everyone online saying, damn, we actually have a movie that's worth like seeing in 4DX. So if you have 40x, maybe go see it if you want to risk your life watching this. Okay, a couple things. Yeah, CGI, the twisters themselves looked really good. The explosions that you see in the trailer and that fire tornado, I think looked phenomenal, looked seriously great. The theater scene that's shown in the trailer, that is mesmerizing in the film while you're watching it, and it is so scary and intense. I seriously love that, and I thought they absolutely nailed it. Just the debris being thrown around in this film feels very real and very dangerous versus the first one. There's a few times where you're like, eesh, that does not look good. Like that flying cow looks very fake. In this one, all of the debris just looks fantastic. They showed a ruined town, which I just thought looked really great like the first one. I think they do another really great ruined town in this one. Maybe the only bad thing of CGI that I saw was, and this shot's shown in the trailer as well, it's Tyler Owen's truck as a twister is approaching, and the truck just looks weird somehow. Like, it looks, I don't know, it just looks off for some reason. It looks very digital, if that makes sense. Yeah, it's a sequel. The stakes, do they feel like a step up? Absolutely. I think they progressed very well in this film, and appropriately. This feels like, yes, this movie is fine that it was made, and I think they are logically moving the world of Twister forward with Twisters. So if they make a third, I'm not sure where they're gonna go. Maybe this is not a spoiler, but like they say, oh, there's never been a tornado in New York since blah, blah, blah. Maybe that's where they go with the sequel. Are they going to do Twisters in New York City, like bringing Ghostbusters back to New York in the most latest one? I don't know. Maybe that's where they go. And it's like they say in the trailer, they're trying to stop a tornado. The first one is about understanding tornadoes. This one, they're like, hey, how about we actually do something about it? Instead, the first one, they're like, oh, we need to do our science experiment to get the warnings up to 15 minutes or whatever. And in this one, they're like, how about we actually stop them so people don't die and can get away from them? And it's cool. It's a very good step forward, I think. And this is not a spoiler, death-wise. Holy shit, this movie really stepped it up. I was actually laughing in the theater. A few times they show deaths and they are like shocking. You watch that first one and two people die in the entire movie and one person like is shown to be injured. In this one, there's like 10 deaths, and every time I was like, Jesus Christ. Like, it's much more realistic, I would say, to what would happen with these tornadoes. But oh my God, it's a very fun movie, and it feels very dangerous and adventurous, and I just love the adrenaline junkiness of this film. Like I said, every scene with Tyler Owens is just gold, and I think him and Kate actually have a lot of really great chemistry in this film. Like, it's just nice to see natural chemistry. Even if Daisy Edgar Jones' performance is perhaps not the best in this film, I do think those two characters work very well together, and they're very well written, and there is a lot of like emotional stakes in this film, and this film has a lot of heart, which I really liked. There's a lot I liked about this film. I gave it 4 out of 5 on Letterboxd. Now, let's get into what I didn't like. I think the script is not perfect. There's way too much scientific jargon. Like, there's more scientific jargon and words I don't care about in this than like Dune or any sci-fi movie I can remember in recent times. It's just like, oh, well, when a tornado comes in, the atmosphere comes into, and it's just all of this, white lab coat talk that I'm like, who cares? Move forward. Move the plot forward. We don't need to have it explained. Now, they do have one cool CGI moment where they're going through like the process of a tornado, but there's just so much, well, the XY axis is blah, 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 and it's all this Dr. Frank talk from The Simpsons that I just I don't care. So way too much of that, way too much scientific exposition that we can skip over. My eyes glossed every time. I was like, I don't care about that. Needle drops, awful. I hate country music, so I'm already biased, but every time there was a needle drop in this film, my eyes rolled. I was like, Jesus Christ, this feels like a Boots and Hearts festival advertisement. That's a deep cut for Ontario people. Just not good. I thought the country music was terribly picked. I liked all the rock needle drops in the first one, but the country in this one is all like really bad country music. It's like new country music that's trying to be rap or rock country kind of. It's just all very bad. It's like it's country music you would hear in a car commercial or in specifically a Dodge Ram commercial. This movie made me want to buy a Dodge Ram. I perhaps wish Kate's mom, who's played by what's her name from The Iron Claw and Liar Liar. This is not a spoiler. She plays Kate's mom in this film. I wish there was actually maybe more of her in the film. I just really liked their relationship, and that was something that really worked for me. Kate's mom, I don't know. There was just a lot of great emotional weight behind her, and she's just like a really fun character every time she's on screen as well. But look, overall, did the movie deliver on what I wanted? Yes. In fact, I really enjoyed it. I want to go see it in IMAX. Honestly, I would see this movie in 40X because the videos I've seen of Twisters in 40X is wild to me. But look, this is an extremely fun summer blockbuster that feels real. Like, it actually feels dangerous watching this. The stakes feel high. They feel in your face. It has a lot of laughs. It's just a wicked summer flick. This is a popcorn movie, and I would absolutely recommend it. Both films this week for me have bad needle drops, first of all, or one movie more than the other. Perhaps not the best scripts and could be polished up a little bit more, but are just fun movies. They are great summer blockbusters, and that's what it's all about. At Twisters, I gave it 4 out of 5. I really enjoyed it. Let's get into spoilers. Okay, so that opening scene was terrifying in Twisters. As I said, we're in spoilers now, and the movie opens up, and you're like, oh, Kate has a boyfriend, that's nice. And you're like, wait a minute, he's not in any of the trailers. Why could that be? Oh, he dies in the first 5 minutes. Same with Kiernan Shipka and I think Pradeep, their other crew member. So 3 crew members die in the first 10 minutes of this film, and only Javi and Kate survive. That was a depressing start, but it is an exhilarating start. They're all university students or college students because they're in the States. They are trying to get a grant for a research project, so they're going to chase a tornado and they want to stop a tornado. It's pretty crazy. They're trying to climb up an overpass. Kiernan Shipka and Kate's boyfriend, they get sucked into the tornado and die. It very much sets the tone for the film because 10 people die in this film or more, and it's pretty crazy every time someone dies in this film. So a lot of death, and I was pretty blown away when they opened the movie with killing someone as recognizable as Kiernan Shipka and Kate's boyfriend right away. The scenes where Kate comes back, she's back in the game. She's got to, get back on the horse. I don't know. They're okay. Like, she's trying to get data, however you say it, with Javi, and, is pissing off David Cornsweet because he just needs her to set up like the satellite thing or whatever. And I don't know. They weren't great. Like, her reactions of like stopping their experiments because she didn't want to get too close to the tornado were just kind of like, okay, let's get this over with. It didn't feel like she actually was scared. I don't know. And I love Daisy Edgar Jones. I seriously, I love her. I think she's a great actress, but it just wasn't working for me. So that was one thing that I just felt was like kind of weak. And that also goes into Javi, who I think wasn't the best written character. He just kind of felt like generic best friend that's doing under the table real estate stuff, and they're all profiting off of the tornadoes. That's a major plot point is that David Cornsweet and Javi's characters are working with this local real estate guy. Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of moments in this film that just feel quite generic character-wise. It's more of a spectacle film than a character film, if we're being honest. I think this is a movie with fun characters like Tyler Owen's Tornado Wrangler, who are just like so ridiculous and fun to see. There's no particular character moments that really stick with you in your gut where you're like, wow, I got emotional about that after. It's more like that movie was crazy and the tornadoes were insane, but none of the characters I was like, oh, that was so sad when blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? Really great, like the fire tornado. I thought that sequence was so awesome with the explosions, the flipped over truck, all really good CGI stuff in this other than that one digital truck that was quite obvious. But that scene was just absolutely chef's kiss. I was just like, holy shit, yes, we're getting fire tornadoes. This is sick, something we've only seen in Mad Max, and now we're getting it in Twisters, which, speaking of kisses, oh my God, they apparently Steven Spielberg told them to cut the kiss between Daisy Edgar Jones and Glenn Powell out of this film. He thought the kiss was not necessary. What? I am so pro Kiss. I am fully on team Kiss. At the end, they're in the airport. He's chased her down, and it's a classic, rom-com romantic situation. I was like, oh, you gotta kiss the girl. Yeah, they gotta kiss. And it's just like they go to chase down a tornado, and yeah, just a bummer. I thought there needed to be a kiss, and I thought it would have been, the cherry on top of, oh, it's sweet. They got romance out of this despite them both being messed up by some tornadoes. If you recall in the first movie, they go to like a drive-in theater type location when a tornado hits at night. Well, a version of that in this film is they go to a stampede at night because Tyler Owens is a former bull rider who got his head kicked in a few too many times and went to university. He's a good old Texas boy. The tornado scene after the stampede is crazy. That was one of my favorite sequences of the film for sure. They take cover in a pool, and I just thought that was so well done where Tyler Owens and actually Bill Paxton's son has a cameo in this. He's this kid in the hotel who's like annoying the manager and saying, look, man, the internet's not working, or whatever it is. I can't remember, but he gets killed. Pretty crazy kill. But it's really fun that they gave him something to do in this film. There's like a truck that flips into the pool over Tyler Owens and Kate and this family that they're hiding with. And it's just, again, another person dies in there, and it's absolutely wild. Just really love that whole sequence. And that was like, oh yeah, now we're getting into the big money. That was just, it was really good. I loved all that. And people just, the deaths in this are crazy. And it feels like I don't know. It just feels like the stakes are really risen in this film. And it's just a great final action set piece. Kate takes his truck and just dashes into the tornado and finally accomplishes stopping a tornado. I really loved it. It felt like it didn't feel like a corny ending. They're really doing their best to protect everyone in this theater, which, oh my God, the line that Javi says of this theater isn't built to withstand what's coming, the meta aspect of that is just so good. I would be running that in every single trailer, every single poster, that would be the slogan of the film. The tagline would be, this theater isn't built to withstand what's coming, because that is just such golden writing. I love that. But just a fun final sequence where Kate takes the truck and gets to have her redemption moment after her boyfriend and her colleagues all died at the start of the movie. I just thought that was a really good character redemption moment. And I like that it isn't Tyler Owens who is the hero of the story. Like everybody else is doing great stuff at the theater trying to save people and stay alive. But I just like that Kate was the hero at the end. It felt right before we're, stolen of a kiss. But look, fun movie. I actually had a really fun time watching this. I want to see it again. I think I will see it again. And if it's running in IMAX somewhere, I'm going to see it in IMAX because it is just visually a very fun movie. It's cool to see. I don't know, just a step up and a respectful progression on the first film that I seriously enjoyed. And I would totally recommend it to anyone that's looking for a fun summer blockbuster flick. Like, I feel like this will be just as rewatchable as the first Twister movie, which I'll talk about in a moment. But yeah, 4 out of 5. It's not a perfect film, but it's very fun. You get to see movie stars being movie stars, and I would totally recommend it. That has been Deadpool and Wolverine and Twisters. Let's get into what else I watched. Okay, what else I watched this week? Well, The Boys Season 4 wrapped up, and I have to say, probably the weakest season. I actually think Season 3 was better as a whole, apart from the finale, but Season 4 did feel... It just took a little bit to get going. I feel like the ending was a little... Or, not the ending, sorry, the start was and it got better as the season went on, versus last season felt like, oh, this is really great and awesome all season, and then the finale was like, oh, nothing really happens. Okay, cool. But look, they have one more season to really go out with a bang, and I'm very confident they will. I really liked what they've done with season 4. I think all the characters are in good places right now. I liked that they actually had some stakes in the finale and some things actually happened. I'm not going to spoil anything. If you are a fan of The Boys and you haven't watched season 4, I've said this every week, watch it, because some stuff actually does happen and they move the story forward. Unlike season 3, fun things happen, and actually today is Comic-Con, and they just just announced that they're going to be doing a Stormfront and Soldier Boy TV show. That's really cool. I think Jensen Ackles is really funny as Soldier Boy, just a crazy character. Yeah, season 4, overall, I'd probably give it an A- because it's still TV that I'm really enjoying, but I think the other seasons are just so phenomenal. Like that season 1 of The Boys is so golden. Season 2, amazing. Season 3 is like very enjoyable until the finale where you feel kind of let down. And then season 4, at first you're like, okay, this is decent. And then once you hit like episode 3, it really starts to cook. But yeah, pretty good, The Boys season 4 overall, but not the best. I actually got a new game this week for my PlayStation. I got Helldivers 2. I played a few hours last weekend. Very much enjoyed it. It seems very fun, and I'm excited to play it more this weekend. I'm recording this on Friday the 26th of July, and I think, yeah, I'm going to dabble in some Helldivers 2 this weekend. But last weekend, of course, we were going to see Twisters. We had to rewatch the original Twister. Very fun movie on rewatch, other than I think some characters are have aged quite poorly in that. Like Philip Seymour Hoffman's character is just kind of creepy as shit in that movie. He's kind of weird and a little bit gropey with all of the women in the movie. Not crazy about that. Bill Paxton's character is just a terrible person. He is actually a moron. Like, it gets divorced from his first wife. Actually, he just bails on her, and they're getting divorced. And he brings his new fiance to meet his ex-wife and everyone else. It's so funny how poorly they treat the new fiance, because she is the only normal person in that movie that is having normal reactions. And I'm completely on her side the whole time I'm watching. But look, still a very fun movie. Like, it's still, the effects do not hold up at all, but it's still a fun story, and it feels like there's actually some real danger in it. I have finished The Bear season 3, so I've rewatched the entire series of The Bear. I do think season 3 is, it's hard to say weak, but it's just season 1 and 2 are so elite. I think season 2 of The Bear is just so great. Specifically watching Forks again, oh my god. But watching Napkins again with Tina's character is just absolutely heartbreaking, but it is this season's Forks, and I absolutely loved it. The Bear is just, it's so good. Like, it's, oh my god, it's such a rewatchable show as well. Like, I get that people get stressed out watching it, but it's just such good TV, and it's so entertaining, and it's so funny. Like, season 3, I think the comedy is not as good, especially with the Fack brothers. I think Maddie Matheson's character and the other cousin are just really annoying. Like, I love Maddie Matheson online, and I watch his YouTube videos, and I love him in general, but his character is just a little bit too much. But also, just the other Fack brother is way worse. Like, just so unfunny in the show, especially upon rewatch. The Bear season 3, yeah, I think not the best season, but I'm very excited for season 4. I actually finished a book this week. I finished Children of Dune, and I gotta say, it was awesome. It was all 3 books have been fantastic. I'm starting God Emperor of Dune on Monday, the day this comes out, if you're listening. A really good book. I seriously enjoyed it. The characters that they bring in are really just very deep, and there's so many. I posted on my TikTok and Instagram. I posted all my favorite quotes from it in a TikTok and on the Instagram post, and there's just so many passages that I found myself rereading, because just the language in the book is just so mesmerizing and so beautiful. But there's so many, I don't know, just deep things to think about while you're reading the book. Like, yes, it's sci-fi, but it's just, it's so much more. It's like, I don't know, that's such a basic analysis, but I seriously loved it. I'm so excited to read God Emperor of Dune. I'm actually making pretty decent time through all these books. I'm a very slow reader, but I started Dune, the first book, halfway through March, and I'm already on the third one by July, while I'm doing a ton of other stuff in life as well. So I'm still finding time to read, which is nice. And it is a great way to wind down every night before you go to bed, is reading a book rather than looking at your phone. I do find I am more relaxed. Last thing I watched was An Evening with Tim Heidecker. I don't know why, I saw a clip of it last week. It's so funny. So I rewatched that on YouTube, and actually just today they announced it's going on Hulu, which in Canada is Disney. So Disney Plus is going to have Tim Heidecker's An Evening with Tim Heidecker, which, if you don't know, he's making fun of like right-wing comedians, like, I don't know, like a Jerry Seinfeld. Like, he's doing this fake act where he's just like fake outrage over everything and being like, oh, the woke, oh, my wife, the nag, and stuff like that. It's so funny. It's such a good satire parody that if you haven't seen it and you enjoy stand-up comedy, I would so recommend it, because it's probably like my favorite stand-up special ever, and it's not even a real stand-up special, or it is. Like, it's like so meta on so many different levels. levels. It's just, it's phenomenal. Yeah, that was everything I watched. What am I going to watch this weekend? Well, because next week I have a special episode where we're looking back on the year. This weekend I'm going to watch Young Woman in the Sea, the Daisy Ridley swimmer movie that looks really cool when I'm not watching the Olympics, of course, which actually a couple hours ago was the opening ceremony, and Canadian soccer has been caught cheating with drones, so that's awesome. Yeah, I'm going to watch Young Woman in the Sea, and I think I'm going to watch Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare. Is that what it's called? I don't know. It's Guy Ritchie. All of his shit just blends together for me. I think that's now on Amazon Prime, so I'm going to check out those two movies, I believe. So, I don't know. Some things I'm going to watch this weekend. The Superman show, I didn't mention it, even though every week I've mentioned the episode I've watched. I'm going to watch that for sure this weekend. There's lots of great stuff still to be watched. There's lots of good TV. There's tons of good movies. Oh my God, the selection of movies at the theater right now is bonkers. Like, you can still see so many great movies, and that's what I love about summer is there's always a good selection. Maybe other than, 2020, I was still in the trenches. My friends and I saw Tenet. We saw Suicide Squad. 2020, I was still going to the theaters when I was allowed. I think that about does it for episode 28, Deadpool and Wolverine and Twisters. Wow, that was a fun one. Lots of stuff to unpack in Deadpool and Wolverine. Twisters, a very fun movie that I will definitely rewatch again. I mean, both movies I will probably rewatch, but Twisters specifically I think is such a good disaster rewatchable film. But as always, please rate and review the show 5 stars. Share it with a friend. You can text it to them directly through streaming platforms or through YouTube. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, and Acast. You can rate us and review us 5 stars on all of those and leave a lovely review, and I'll maybe read it on the show if I see it. We're also on YouTube where you can like and comment. Let me know in the comments what your thoughts were on both of the films this week. Did you like them? Did you not like them? Do you think Twisters was a worth it sequel? Do you think Deadpool and Wolverine delivered on the hype that was around it? Oh my God, there's been so much press around it, but like good press. I just watched the lie detector video with Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds, and it was just hilarious. Same with their Hot Ones episode was so good. Oh my God. But yeah, you can find us on YouTube. You can like and comment there. Subscribe and hit the notification bell so you know every time there's a new short or new videos every Monday. The new podcast drops every Monday. You can also email the show to get in touch with us at watcherofallthings@gmail.com. Let me know what you'd like me to review the rest of the summer. We're already at the end of July. It's July 26th. Dear God, where's the time going? We're over halfway through the year easily. This is strange. But yeah, watcherofallthings@gmail.com. But you can also find me on social media. TikTok for the show is watcher.of.all.things, and the Instagram is just Watcher of All Things. You can also follow my personal letterboxd. It's KikiJ70. That's KIKIJ70. I do fun lists. I, have my yearly ranked stuff, always updating every time I watch a new movie in that year. Follow on Letterboxd. You can see all of my reviews right away. But next week, we're going to cover San Diego Comic-Con, but we're also going to do 2024 so far. We're going to cover all the movies that I've watched in 2024 so far, talk about what I've liked, what I don't like, some big moments, some moments maybe we forgot about. It's going to be a fun episode next week, and I'm very much looking forward to it. I hope you all have a wonderful week. I hope you've enjoyed this perhaps longer episode than I normally do, but lots to mention. Thank you again. I seriously get, kind messages every week from people in my Instagram DMs, and I'm just, it fills me with joy every single time that even one person is listening to this. So it does not go unnoticed every time I get one. I seriously appreciate it so much. Thank you all for the support. I hope you have a great week, and I will see you in the next one.